Now call the meeting of the Waco City Council on September 6, 2022 to order at 3:03 p.m. Please join me for a moment of silence today. Thank you. We provide an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on any agenda item or during the hearing of visitors portion of the agenda. On items other than public hearings, speakers will be allotted 1 3-minute presentation regardless of the number of agenda items the speaker wishes to address. If you're here to speak and have not filled out a registration card, please see the City Secretary staff at the registration table outside of the auditorium to provide registration information so that staff can contact you if necessary. If you have handouts, please let us know at the beginning of your presentation, and staff will distribute those to council. And if you're able to approach the podium due to physical limitations, a microphone is available to be brought to you. Michelle, has anyone filled out a speaker card for a work session item?
No, Mayor.
Seeing no one is registered to speak, we will now recess the regular session and convene to work session with a report from the city manager.
Thanks, Mayor, and good afternoon to the council. I do not have any changes on the agenda today, and I don't have any organizational updates either, so I'm going to skip right into informal reports. We did provide you with a informal report 589, which is an update on our third quarter financials, as well as investment report. You'll note that the financial report for the third quarter shows continued expense control and strong revenue gains across multiple funds. This report documents our performance through the end of June, which is our 9th month of the fiscal year. On the investment side, you'll note that our total investment portfolio market value is $652.7 million, which is an increase of about $11.4 million from the value reported at the end of the last quarter. The city's investment portfolio for the quarter yielded 0.729% compared to the 180-day Treasury yield of 1.65%. The city's weighted average maturity is 236 days compared to 261 days at the end of the prior quarter. And the city has generated investment earnings of $1.1 million for the quarter and currently has an unrealized loss of $8.2 million due to changes in interest rates experienced during the fiscal year. If you're wondering why I went into a detailed explanation, that verbiage is required to be reported and read into the record. On informal report 59.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, hop in.
Holmes here on the financial report.
District 5.
Great looking for District 5. I'd feel out of place if I didn't say something here, but the third quarter looks great. I mean, as you mentioned already, Bradley, the expense containment, it really is impressive throughout all of our funds, not this is general or the utility, but that goes to the amenity funds, everything that we're doing, we're containing costs, which is important to the bottom line, important to the taxpayers. Two things I wanted to say about it. The sales tax, that we are doing well there. I mean, the revenue there, we're trying to be conservative post-pandemic. And just to see those numbers coming in, beating year over year and beating a budget, I think is very important, very encouraging for not only this year's budget, but also future year's budgets as that becomes a more stable figure in our revenue source. The other thing I just wanted to mention, and I think I say this every year that I've been on council, on the water fund, it's always the last quarter. And again, I think most people know that the city is on a October to September fiscal year. So our fourth quarter is the third quarter of a regular year. So we're getting into our last quarter here at the end of this month. But the water and the revenue's down a little bit. I mean, it all kind of stands to reason. We put some restrictions in place. And again, expenses, we're holding the line and actually doing a little bit better on expenses. But just to confirm for the citizens, I guess me too, that we do maintain adequate cash reserves in the light of no rainfall and the water restrictions that we're imposing, that we're going to still have reliable service and even in the face of operating it upside down for a couple quarters.
Yeah, let me throw a dad joke in. We will have liquidity due to those restrictions, both on the cash side as well as on the water
even though
side.
we're illiquid right now, right?
I thought I'd get more
All
laughs.
right.
I thought I'd get
That
more
was a
laughs
solid,
on
solid
that.
pun.
Two.
Two? Oh, man. Out of five, okay. We're grading on the curve. Yeah, we will be in good shape, and through June, I would suspect July and August, even with the restrictions we put in place, that we'll see some bump in revenue versus last year in particular, because we had a wet summer last year.
Okay, thanks, Bradley. Great report, Nicholas, putting this together.
Our second informal report is 590. It's an update on safety and security measures by Steel Property located at 1700 Dallas Circle. This was provided as an update to council questions we had at a prior work session. On informal report 591, the Dewey Center public Wi-Fi project, a pretty neat project that our IT department's taken on. The IR introduces the Wi-Fi project and comes to you after quite a bit of study by IT to determine the availability and affordability of broadband in Waco. The study did find there's several vendors operating in Waco who can provide broadband internet to residential and business customers. It also found that affordability can be an issue for some residents. So in addition to continuing to help promote federal programs that are increasing access for low-cost or no-cost broadband for residents, the staff also determined that providing free broadband internet in and around some city facilities can help those who have particular needs for internet access. I think the IR shows the footprint as an exhibit for high-speed internet around the Dewey, and the parking lots, and also out into the neighboring park as well. IT is going to continue to evaluate technology for its ability to provide reliable and secure high-speed bandwidth for community use. When you're thinking of students that might need to download homework, or parents that want to apply for employment or things of that nature. And if successful, the plan is to develop a proposal focused on other community centers, libraries, and city-owned facilities that happen to be close to residential areas to really provide a benefit to our neighbors.
Ford, thanks so much for highlighting this. I was really excited to see this informal report. It's so clear from this report and from this proposed pilot how dedicated we are to equity work and seeing equity as crucial to each element of offering city services. In the pandemic, we saw the digital divide really exacerbated, particularly in our low-income communities, and for this to be centered in a community center where we're already having neighbors come and gather is a huge win. Dewey is such an asset and a resource to our community, and I'm excited to see us offer a new way to meet residents' needs. I am very excited to see what Monica gets into in terms of creating some PSAs, particularly in both English and Spanish for our residents, finding ways that we can highlight some of these FCC benefits that make access to internet connection a lot more affordable. It was interesting in reading through this report that it's not really the accessibility piece that's the challenge in Waco, but it is the affordability piece. And I know I think this is data from 2019, but in 2019, the data was 44% of District 4 residents were making under $25,000 a year household-wise. And so even something as low as $30 a month could be the difference between someone being able to work remotely, access their health care remotely, kids do remote work in school when they're out sick with COVID or anything else. So this feels like a meaningful path forward to address a really crucial need, which is internet access in the 21st century. So thank you to the IT team and to the Parks and Rec team and to the city manager's office that have all worked to create this pilot. I am thrilled to see it move forward and can't wait to see it move into community centers and libraries in the future.
Thank you, City Manager, for highlighting this informal report as well as the previous one. As Councilmember Palmer mentioned, even before the pandemic, I think what the pandemic did was just exposed or allowed more light to shine on something that we have been looking at and dealing with for several years before. Even I know when I was Main Street manager for City Center Waco, we were looking at what downtown internet looked like and what internet looked like at our parks and things like that, of public availability, and began to follow cities that were doing that already. I think that this allows us to, and I know that time is time, right? And when you get the right people in the right rhythm, and moving forward in a way, it just allows this work that has been trudging along to just kind of begin to flow. And I know that comes from the placement and decisions and the direction of IT that we're currently sitting under, and the motivation of our city management team and staff. I think that this is poignant in doing it at the community centers, because that is where a lot of neighborhoods are focused around and gather. I think the fact that it's not just in the parking lot, that it could, spread a little further in the neighborhood, will be even a greater addition to that. And I look forward to seeing what happens throughout the city once this pilot is complete. Just to run back to 90 right quick, I was able to attend the residents meeting with Steel Properties at Trentwood, and the information that was provided by the Monroe Group, which is a subsidiary of Steel. So I did answer the questions that were raised previously, but also in the meeting that were given, it was made clear that this was an opportunity, for the residents of Trentwood to, and a responsibility of the residents of Trentwood. And so we're looking forward to gathering around them during this transition, because I know a transition is hard. I mean, you got to pack up your life. You've been there forever. You've got to pack it up. You've got to move it. They wanted to make sure that their personal items, their family history, that all of that was secure. And I thought it was important that they make that clear in what this looks like in the move, and that what will happen when they return, to make it as seamless and easy as any change is. But the level of security, one of the things that I wanted to make sure was reiterated from a city perspective is, we want all of our residents safe. I mean, that's one of our primary goals in managing city, is the safety of our citizens, and not that they're jailed was the other one. And I think that we made that point clear with Steele from the beginning, that we wanted to make sure that our residents felt protected but not imprisoned. And I think they got it. And, everything that I saw would indicate that they got it. But I know, and I'm thankful for our city staff, Galen Price, in walking this and walking through it, but in all the things that we've done with Trentwood to make sure that we have a strong path forward in District 1, a strong path forward with this facility specifically. I'm like, the first story I ever heard about Trentwood is when Mom was working at at Methodist Home. She lived there. So, that was one of the things. So it's been a part of this community forever. And my first pediatrician grew up there. So those are the things that, I know that are important, and the families that live there are important, and the ability that they have to be safe, raise their children, go to work every day, and do what they're supposed to do is important. So let's just stand together as a community and continue to walk this path with the Trentwood residents. Bless you. And move along. And if you could, I know you're staying on top of this, Director Price, but if you could just keep us informed in the transition of how they're doing the move out, because I know they said the first of the year is when it would really get started. So just keep us informed on that, and so we can walk with them in this process. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments, Councilmember. Regarding the remainder of the agenda, we do have several public hearings today. We have 4 budget-related hearings, the first of which is a public hearing and ordinance on the tax rate, which, as the council knows, the budget and tax rate has been widely discussed over the last several months at city council meetings, as well as budget and audit committee meetings. The upcoming vote later tonight will be for a tax rate of 76 cents for next year, which would be our lowest rate since 2007. And if you're interested in learning more about the budget, certainly there's a variety of information on our website, or you could tune into the last city council meeting, the work session, in which Assistant City Manager Kane gave a top 10 list of all the things that are great about the upcoming budget. So the other three budget-related hearings relate to, the first one relates to the Tourism Public Improvement District, the Service and Assessment Plan for what we call the TPID, and then also the Service and Assessment Plans for PID 1 and PID 2. Then we'll have Clint Peters come up and talk about two planning-related public hearings. He'll cover those later in the work session this afternoon. And then finally, Galen Price, our Director of Community Services, will cover a housing CDBG-related public hearing in the business session later on this evening. Regarding resolutions, we have 56 resolutions on the agenda. Oh, sorry. Did
I
somebody?
have a question, City Manager. On 615, if you could explain a little bit more to me about that one, Resolution 615, 2023 615, before we go on any further. I think I remember this way back, and I was just wondering if you could bring me up to date with whatever it is and how it happened and why it happened and where we're at as far as interring the
Sure, I'd be.
bones that we found out there.
I think let's see, I'm looking around the room, I'm seeing Jonathan, Tombalk, and Byron. Who wants to take this one? Because I know all three of you have detailed information, and there is certainly an explanation that can be provided
The
simply.
leader of cemetery information, Tom.
Tom recently got that promotion, and they're making, this might be
Right?
like a hazing thing or something. If anybody in the crowd didn't know, this is Tom Balk, our Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you very much. Council, Mayor, appreciate your interest in this resolution. The update on this is concerning employment change for the archaeologist of record concerning the remains from First Street Cemetery. So as you may recall, this project dates back to 2008, which is a project at that time to expand the facilities for the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame and our relationship with the Rangers, the Texas Rangers themselves. And what was encountered at that time were unmarked graves that translated into a much wider study that had to be done to carefully proceed with that project. The result was that many of the remains that were disturbed as part of the project had to be carefully collected and curated under a permit with the Texas Historical Commission. And so that spelled out the lay of the land on how to proceed to completion of that project, of the research, analysis, and reinterment. And the process involved, as I understand it, and because many of the human remains are very small, and so some of the biological testing that's done to it, some of the cataloging and study that's done to it, has taken a considerable amount of research time. So this has transpired over many years, and what has also happened in that time is that the archaeologist of record that permit is issued to and assigned to, her employment has changed a number of times. And so we've had consent and assignment agreements along the way. And
That's what I was concerned about, her changing so many employment places and how it was affecting our First Street Cemetery project. That was my concern.
Absolutely.
I didn't realize we were still holding all of that.
And seeing this through with the same team is important because it allows us to demonstrate to the Texas Historical Commission that we are concluding it per the terms of, there's a memorandum of agreement that we've entered into with the state as well as the National Park Service who's involved. And so this allows us to honor the commitments of that agreement. And the consultant is nearing the end of the research phase to do the reporting and curation, and we're encouraged that can be completed within the next 12 to 18 months. So this, and furthermore, the further encouragement that we have that this will be the last consent and assignment agreement is that this new employment arrangement, it's her own company. So the office that she has been most recently employed with, they're closing their Texas footprint. So she had to go out on her own. And this way, we don't anticipate any further consent or assignment agreements to see the project through.
Okay, thank you. I was just concerned that that person had been changing employment places and it was holding up our project, First Street Cemetery, and I know it's been on hold for a while, and that concerned me.
That's right. That's right. It was definitely a concern of ours as well as we looked at our options when we received notice that this company was closing. So we had some frank conversations about it, but as I learned about the process, it became clear that the research phase had been continuing diligently. We are nearing the end of that. So hidden progress has been made throughout that we just couldn't see, but we're to that point now where it's the curation and reporting per the terms of the agreement.
Okay, thank you.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
Thank you.
If you want to know anything about First Street Cemetery, I used to play there. That was my playground. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. The resolutions, we do have 56 on the agenda today, and just as a reminder, as we get into September and October, that is when our resolutions tend to grow in number. I think this agenda was close to 800 pages long, so appreciate the council's.
777.
777. Next time we'll get it to 800 for you, just for you. But appreciate the council's diligence in reading that and asking questions on the items. I want to highlight just a couple of resolutions. The first is 633, and this is a purchase of a fire station alerting system. Excited about this. The current system we use for alerts in the stations is more than 20 years old, which means that we're using pretty dated technology. The Purvis system that we're purchasing will cost about $400,000 and be installed at all fire stations. It's really a state-of-the-art system that will reduce the number of steps required for the dispatcher to complete the dispatch procedure. Agencies that have recently installed this system have reported up to a 45-second reduction in dispatch time per incident, which if you're experiencing a cardiac arrest or have a fire in your home, those seconds do matter quite a bit. So we are excited to get this installed and in service for our residents. Resolution 643 is another one I wanted to highlight. It's an engineering services contract with SCS Engineers. They will continue to provide our environmental monitoring at landfill 948A. That includes air quality monitoring, groundwater monitoring, and additional services at the landfill. They'll be paid up to $456,000 during fiscal year 22-23 for those services. And this work is really pivotal to ensure we remain in compliance with our TCEQ regulations and the requirements of our landfill permits. Another engineering services contract I wanted to highlight is Resolution 646 with CDM Smith for water and wastewater planning services. This is a relatively large contract. It's $1.837 million over 5 years. The main takeaway that we'll pull out of this contract is an updated water and wastewater master plan, which will take about 15 months to complete. That plan will serve as the basis of our water and wastewater capital improvement programs over the next few years. The prior master plan was completed in 2015 and has served us well, but as you might imagine, with the growth in the various parts of Waco on the edges as well in the core, it's imperative that we stay on top of infrastructure needs related to growth as well as infrastructure degradation, and this study will help us do that. And then finally, wanted to highlight Resolution 661, which is a grant application for the Spiegelville Road Bridge project. This is a bridge, if you've not driven it, it's out over the Middle Bosque, out down the Highway 84 corridor. It's a bridge that was built in 1964 by the Corps of Engineers, and it looks like a 1964 bridge. It's quite narrow, it's quite old. It's been named as functionally obsolete by TxDOT due to the lane width and shoulder width, the inability to move around on that bridge. It's still in good condition in terms of structural standpoint. You can still drive it, but you're going to have a narrow drive. An application is going to be made by our Public Works Department tomorrow, if you approve the item, for $17 million to support the bridge's replacement and related costs. We're applying to the Federal Bridge Investment Program, the BIP is what it's being called, which was created recently by the bipartisan infrastructure law that passed. If awarded, the city will have a required match of between 10 to 20% on the $17 million, which we would be in a good position to use CIP bridge dollars to support if we are awarded, if we're fortunate enough to get the project. It would be about an 18-month construction project down on the 84 corridor, but one that is definitely needed.
I'll just chime in on that one, City Manager Ford. Yeah, that's very important because that's a fast-growing area out there in that Spiegelville, and if anybody's out there, you just go north a little bit off of where the overpass was just completed a couple of years ago, and there's a lot of traffic out there. And as you approach that bridge, as you said, it's in okay condition, but it's easy to see that it is functionally obsolete. As you come over that hill, it creates some dangerous traffic patterns there. So I'm glad to see that we're taking advantage, particularly taking advantage of a grant that will help us fund what is a very expensive enterprise when you start replacing bridges. So I'm excited about getting this one going. One other resolution I wanted to comment on was 634, which is another federal grant. This is actually a state grant, I think, through the Highway Safety Improvement Program of the state of Texas, I believe, TxDOT. And this one is three traffic signals at 3 locations. One of them is in District 5 in the Mountain View neighborhood and the Viking Hills neighborhood at where Bishop and Hilltop meet, and it crosses Valley Mills Drive. I live near that area there, and it's dangerous, and I think having that traffic signal in there, it'll be a while. Looks like 2024, but again, this is a grant that we've applied for, and again, it makes these things, it helps our budget when we get these federal grants and state grants. We're matching a small part and still getting the full effect of the improvement. So I'm happy to see that one starts in a little over a year, it looks like, but this is just the engineering part that we're approving today. That we will see that traffic signal at Valley Mills and Bishop here in 18 months or so. That's all I had, Bradley.
Great. On ordinances, we have 7 today, 1 on first reading and the remainder on second reading. Mayor, if there's no further questions, that completes my report.
The consent agenda includes resolution 2022-606 through 661. Are there any items council would like to remove from the consent agenda? If not, that will stand as read. But before we move on, I just wanted to note that it is the 5-year anniversary at the city of Waco of a certain somebody. Their city manager, Bradley Ford, it's his 5th-year anniversary, and we just wanted to take a minute out of the meeting today and give council a chance to just honor that 5-year mark. We did this a couple weeks ago to honor our city attorney. So a lot of anniversaries happening. 5 and 10 years, that's a big amount, that's a large amount of time. So yeah, I just wanted to give a moment for the council to have an opportunity to express our appreciation for our city manager 5 years in.
I guess I'll start. Is that what you want to do, Dylan?
Yeah,
Go around and
that's
roast?
right. Let's
This
go
is a
around.
roast, right?
We're doing it.
We're getting ready to roast Bradley? Let me get my,
We're gonna roast, it's a roast.
my opportunity. No, Bradley, I appreciate you bring, it doesn't seem like it's been 5 years, because I've just been here just almost 6, so you're still a new guy, but I appreciate your commitment to the job. I love your work ethic. I know that the balance, the family work balance that all of us try to make, and we're getting the benefit of that balance. I think that you are doing a great job. I love to see the commitment you have to the city, and I love your commitment to economic development. And that's kind of your background, and that's kind of where you cut your teeth, and that strength really shows through in what I like to see done on this council. I think a lot of the things that the council's getting done has to do with economic development, bringing in more businesses, bringing in more tax dollars, and helping grow our budget and grow our city and make it a great place to live. And all these projects that we have going on, but we had to narrow it down to 75 or 80 of the major projects, and there's another 500 on the board that we're all wanting to tackle. But you've somehow kept us organized and moving forward, which I really appreciate. So Bradley, it's 5 years. Let's do another 50. I appreciate everything. Appreciate everything you're doing.
Bradley, it's been a real pleasure serving with you for, I guess, 21 or 20 months or so. And I really appreciate the way that you treat others and the way that you work with this council, the way you work with your staff and with other appointees. I think that you set a great example at the city for how leaders should lead. I don't have the longer perspective as some council members here, but I really appreciate all the kind of transformational work that you're doing, that we find ourselves in kind of a unique point in Waco's history, and you have seized that and you have somehow been able to make a lot of different council priorities work, and to take new and novel approaches to doing things and to hire people that have similarly creative but responsible approaches to local governance. And so greatly appreciate your wise stewardship of our city and its resources and its people. Thank you.
Bradley, I think the first phrase that comes to mind when I think about working alongside you is joy. You are a joy to work with. I admire the way that you treat everybody with respect, regardless of they're a brand new Wacoan that doesn't yet know what beauty exists in our city, or they are a longtime staff member, or they're a new council member, or they're a tenured council member. You treat everybody with dignity. I appreciate the way that you are so innovative. I love to brag on our council and our mayor and our city manager. I think we have a really healthy dynamic, and part of that dynamic is having so many different opinions and worldviews and vocational orientations, and you leverage the best of the six of us for the common good in ways that are really transformational. I appreciate the way that you both take risk and are willing to do things that we haven't done before in Waco, but that the risks you take are thoughtful and strategic, and you check in with the incredible team that you've built around you. I think part of the reason you're able to do so well is because of the incredible team that's lining the back wall. You bring people that have different skill sets than you, and you are able to build upon that in ways that are really powerful and really exciting to watch. I think you are also such a trusted thought partner, at least to me. I know that if I'm thinking through an idea or a policy or a funding possibility, that you and I can get scrappy and kind of ideate and then figure out ways to streamline and make it clean and make it contextual to Waco specifically. So I'm just 10 out of 10 would recommend. Don't want anyone else to have you as their city manager, but Waco is incredibly lucky to have you. And I know this job has come at a really high cost to you and to Deanna and to your kids. So thank you for the sacrifices you've made to make Waco a really incredible place to call home.
I guess I'm next, Mayor. Sure. Bradley, I appreciate all the comments from my council members. Obviously, I echo their opinions as well. But I appreciate that every time there's a problem or an issue in District 2, you help me see through it. You help my residents see through those issues and the problems. I like that in that I can call you and say, Bradley, I have a problem here. And you say, very calmly, Alice, what is it? And, but you and your team, obviously in the back there, you've got a great team, Bradley, and I appreciate that you built such a great team, and all your department heads, they're every one of our city employees are great employees, but our teams are, the heads of the department, you compiled a great team back there, and I appreciate every one of them because they've all helped me at one point or another to calm myself down and do things that I need to do for District 2 and the city. I appreciate what you're doing, especially on the Riverwalk project. That is such a huge, huge project. And you've just kind of taken hold of that and you said, this is what's going to happen. And hopefully it does. That was knock on wood. I don't have any wood around here, but I appreciate that. And also I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to do there at the Floyd Casey Stadium with the new housing and everything that's going on over there. I appreciate your help and I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your vision for Waco, which helps my district. And thank you for that, Bradley. Thank you for that, and thank you for putting up with my tantrums sometimes.
To thine own self be true. Um, uh, City Manager Ford, Councilmember Rodriguez mentioned vision, and we all know where there's no vision, the people perish. Um, in this time, those 5 years have flown by, literally. But my husband and I were talking yesterday about, folks first start dating, you get the representative. You might not get the real person until some time in the commitment. And I truly believe that the person that we see is the person that we met. I appreciate you for owning the vision for this city, understanding and accepting the complicated past that comes with that, but not being afraid of it and not being unwilling to move past it. Whereas in our past history, you sweep things under the rug. We've kind of just thrown the rug off, broken out the vacuum cleaner, and gotten to figuring out what's the next thing to do. There are many rocks that have been unturned in this council, in this past council, under your leadership, and they were necessary. Rocks, railroad ties, bricks, all kind of things. And I do like the fact that you are a thoughtful risk taker, as that can go. But you do so and do it with intention. And I appreciate your challenging us. I appreciate you responding to us challenging you. You gotta kind of have a lot of chutzpah to herd these cats, and it's not an easy thing to do, and it is a oftentimes thankless thing to do. But I need you to know that as a council, we appreciate where you're willing to go with us. We appreciate that that you find a solution. It may not always be the one we like, but there's a solution. And the ability for us, even if it's something you don't like, that we walk through it and do it together. I know you're probably gonna cry from all these accolades a little later, but we appreciate your work, and we appreciate who you are. We appreciate that you have a full understanding that you can't do it all, and have been challenged to remember that you can't do it all. But you've surrounded yourself with some brilliant minds and some dedicated people to help lift this work and to help you lift this work, because we can't be great if you're not great, and you can't be great if they're not great. So we all want to be great, so keep it up.
Well, I can't say better than what our council has said. So I jotted down some notes, and then, as usual, all the good stuff was copied. But again, just Bradley, you're such a man of vision, competency, strategy, and innovation, ability to herd cats. Everyone gets to see themselves in a very complicated, complex budget. Have built an incredible team. You're pragmatic, but a visionary. But I want to camp out on your values. You're a good man, filled with integrity, compassion. You're the ultimate statesman. You're raising a beautiful family, and I love working with you. It is so fun, whether we're in the trenches in something hard or celebrating.
See, it's some cancer, man, I'm telling you. I know.
Whether in the trenches or celebrating big wins, I love being by your side. And Waco is truly a better place because of you. People's lives are better. People's homes are safer because of the team you've built and your strategy. People are more financially secure because of the strategies that you and your team have been able to deploy. So our community is truly better because of you. Waco's best days are ahead. I'm so thankful for you and Deanna and your family. And so with that, just want to celebrate you. Good days ahead. We are going to have, all the directors are invited back in here for cake for Jennifer and Bradley to celebrate the anniversary. Afterwards, thanks to Michelle for helping coordinate. celebrating. We didn't have cake for Jennifer, but we're going to celebrate with cake for Jennifer and Bradley today. And so the party doesn't end. Thanks to Michelle for that. And with that, the next item on the agenda are work sessions, items 2022, 592 through 594. Bradley, would you please introduce the first work session?
I'll take a minute. I know we're behind schedule here because of this unplanned, or at least to me, unplanned deviation. And just say thanks. It is an honor of a lifetime, and I don't use that phrase lightly. It's an honor of a lifetime to serve you as a council and every one of our residents. It's a commitment, but it's one that I wake up each day wanting to do better at. And certainly appreciate the kind words and each one of the team members that's in the audience, because without them, I couldn't do anything. So thank y'all. I will record this and clip it, or have Dory record it and clip it for me. And when I hit a bumpy spot in the road, I can play it back to myself and be encouraged by your kind words.
Or when you're in a meeting that you know is going to be hard with one of the council members, you can have that queued up on YouTube and just be like,
That's right.
like play that.
What happened here? What happened here?
And,
Bradley, I do the same thing with my high school basketball clips.
Love it, love it, love it. So, well, at this point, Galen, are you ready? I don't know how you're gonna make the transition, but let's try. Galen Price is gonna join us at the table, talk about Chodo activities, but he's actually gonna do the whole introduction. So, Galen, I'm gonna turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Bradley. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Today you will hear from our Chodos who will provide you with an update on the activities they have been doing in relation to housing and community development. You will hear from Grassroots first, followed by Habitat, and then NeighborWorks. They will provide you with an overview of their organization, accomplishments, and notably how they can assist with the implementation of the proposed housing study goals and strategies. And so with that, I will turn it over to Mike Stone of Grassroots to begin.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I'm Mike Stone with Grassroots, and we're going to give you a little overview about what we've been doing and a little bit about our strategy long term. So here is a picture that kind of depicts what we're about, and we are a community builder through community engagement and homeownership, two central things to the community. So our community engagement efforts are on the left-hand side, and they seek to help neighbors connect, lead, and advocate on behalf of their community. We help leaders do this by recognizing and developing their leadership skills through our training classes we call Grassroots Leadership Training, and we help them develop solutions to issues that they have identified. We believe that in order to address community issues, the community has to be at the table. And then on the right-hand side is our homeownership side. At the root of all healthy neighborhoods are invested homeowners. We believe that invested homeowners are the solution to healthy neighborhoods as they take care of their homes and the small issues that surround them. In our homeownership efforts, we do it in a myriad of things. We have our financial literacy classes, our affordable home building, and our home repairs that lead to the building of generational wealth and increases the number of homeowners in the area. And this is our strategy that we've been operating on for many years. So I'm here today to talk to you about some of the things we've been doing. And you all know us as a Chodo, so we get some money to help build some homes, but that also translates into a lot of community efforts as well. So our two different things, community engagement and homeownership. So we serve in 7 different neighborhoods in Waco, in the core of the city, and that also in those neighborhoods are 7 different schools, elementary and middle schools predominantly. We teach our GLT classes at all levels in neighborhoods and schools, and we've had about 111 people graduate in the last 3 years. But the more exciting thing is what happens from those classes. We've had 3 neighborhood associations restart and get active in their community, and that's what we want to do, see more people involved, engaged in their community. And then they have also developed 13 action plans, and that's plans for issues they have identified and then solutions for what they want to do. On the home ownership side, we teach financial literacy classes and home buyer classes. We had 126 classes just in the last 3 years and 456 graduates from that. So a lot of people getting educated. But what's more personal is the counseling sessions. We sit across the table from people and then look at their finances and help them understand where they're at and how, and if that's where they want to be as far as buying a house, then that's great. But if they want to do something different, we'll help them make a plan on how to do better. And there's 5,000 counseling sessions just in the last 3 years. That translates into 48 new homeowners in here in Waco, and we've been able to build 9 homes in that period of time as well. We also take care of our neighbors, so we have a roof and home repair program. So we use a combination of professionals and volunteers. In the summertime, you see the picture there, we've got volunteers that come and re-roof. They came in July this year in the heat, but they do a great job. And we still have a lot of people on our backlog of that effort. You can notice in the picture that the steepness of the roof is fairly small so that the volunteers can work on that. A couple years ago with the freeze, we created a home freeze repair program. We partnered with Habitat for Humanity to shoulder that effort, and we helped 34 homes, and Habitat helped 25, 30 as well. A lot of folks getting help. We also do a lot of series of workshops. This last couple of years has been predominantly about property tax and how to politely work through that process. So we educate a lot of folks in that process. The housing strategy plan that was released in March, I think there's 16 or 17 different strategies that are there. 4 of those have turned into task force. You're very much aware of that. We're involved in every one of those. So the higher density housing is very important to us. We really support the mother-in-law style houses. A technical term is accessory dwelling unit. And we're actually building one right now as a duplex because the rules won't allow you to do that right now. But in the future, that will be allowable. We've talked about the Renaissance at Sanger. That's a new model for Waco, 26 homes in a 1-city block because it compared to a typical 13 homes. So it's another strategy that's related to that. The strategy 2 is the neighborhood revitalization strategy, and that's how we've operated for 20-something years, is make a plan for your neighborhood and then try to execute the plan. So we encourage the process to continue to do that because every neighborhood is not the same and everybody has different desires. So we want to encourage residents to be involved in that process. And then the Housing Trust Fund is basically, for us, it's focusing resources to address the housing issues in Waco. And we're more concerned about the home ownership side of it, but we recognize multifamily will be there too. Community Land Trust, it's a new technique for Waco and probably Texas. By way that, this is one way it can be implemented, that a trust still owns the lands and leases the land to the owner. So it is a way to allow long-term affordability for homes. And as you know, affordable land is the #1 problem facing us in building affordable homes. So I just want to say thank you for your many years of support and everything that you've allowed us to do, and you partnered with us along the way.
Any questions for Mike?
I just wanted to say, greatly appreciate the work y'all do with the neighborhood associations. I know I've seen some of that good work at the Kendrick Neighborhood Association when that was more in my district before redistricting, and really appreciate that role and that level of engagement, which generally supports what the city is doing as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Similarly, you and Grassroots are such a trusted partner, I think, to the city, but particularly to North Waco and in District 4, whether it is community organizing or building pathways for civic engagement and education, the home ownership. I think so many residents know where to go to and know that your staff is accessible and friendly and happy to help, anything from schools to figuring out how to repair roofs. I had the pleasure of connecting with some of your high school volunteers this summer when brought some popsicles by, and it was fun to talk to both the homeowner that felt so incredibly blessed and so incredibly thankful for that work, and then these goofy 14, 15-year-old kids that didn't realize what their youth pastor was roping them into, and then being up on the sun. But I love the way that y'all leverage both volunteers and your incredibly skilled staff to really support strong, healthy neighborhoods. So thanks for the work that you do and lead out in.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mike. We appreciate you.
Okay. Up next, we'll have John with Habitat.
Mayor and City Council, well, thank you for having me here. I'm John Alexander with Waco Habitat for Humanity. Whoops, wrong slideshow. We'll get there. That's us there. That's our folks there. Appreciate the chance to just share with you about Habitat and our work here in Waco. Waco Habitat for Humanity. Whoops, I pushed the wrong button. Waco Habitat for Humanity is a partnership housing program that brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. Founded in 1986, Waco Habitat has completed 180 new homes and over 450 critical repair home projects. Habitat's partnership program starts with the homeowners. Habitat homeowners must complete 300 hours of sweat equity by building other Habitat homes as well as their own home. They must also complete the New Homeowners College, which covers topics such as budgeting, legal aspects of home ownership, taxes, insurance, and home maintenance. A Habitat homeowners partnership does not end when their home is built. Habitat families purchase their homes at cost through a zero-interest 30-year mortgage. Their house payments help build more homes in the community. Habitat is unique in its ability to make homeownership possible for those below 60% of area median income. As Habitat homeowners make their interest-free mortgage payments, they are building wealth through the equity in their homes. The second part of Habitat's partnership, all right, I'm going the wrong way. That's my problem. Now I get that's the right one. A second part of Habitat's partnership program are the volunteers that provide about 70% of the labor to build each home. As volunteers from various walks of life come together to address the issue of poverty housing, walls are broken down, and as each one does his or her own part to build a home. Habitat also partners with the donors who fund the construction of the homes. Habitat donors include businesses, churches, individuals, local foundations, and others in the community. Their gifts are recycled as Habitat homeowners make their mortgage payments. Another source of funding for Habitat homes is the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs Bootstrap Loan Program. Through this program, TDHCA provides $45,000 of the zero-interest mortgage loans to low-income households that help build their own home. It's a perfect fit for the Habitat model, and Habitat provides the remainder of the mortgage loan. Some Habitat homeowners are able to qualify for the City of Waco's Down Payment Assistance Program. Habitat appreciates the City of Waco's support through this program and would welcome the opportunity to expand this partnership. In addition to its new home construction program, Waco Habitat partners with the Texas Ramp Project to build wheelchair ramps for low-income homeowners in McLennan County whose homes lack an accessible entrance. Habitat provides the funding for the materials for the ramps, and Texas Ramp Project provides the skilled volunteer labor to install them. Waco Habitat also runs its very successful Restore at 1224 Franklin Avenue. The Restore is a building materials recycling center that takes donations of new and used building materials and sells them to the public to raise funds to support Habitat's partnership housing program. Last year, the Restore had over $600,000 in sales. The Restore diverts tons of usable building materials out of the landfill each year. It also partners with the City of Waco each year for the Household Hazardous Waste Day, recycling hundreds of gallons of usable paint, which is sold at the Restore. The Restore celebrated 20 years in business this summer. As for everyone in the building industry, the past few years have been challenging for Habitat. The pandemic has affected our volunteers, subcontractors, and building material suppliers. We've averaged the completion of 2 new homes annually for the past few years, and this year we will double that and complete 4 new homes. We are currently building at least 8 new homes on the 11 and 1200 blocks of Payne Avenue in East Waco. Habitat is transforming that street by building homes with families that would otherwise never have had the chance to own a home and to build the generational wealth that comes with home ownership. In addition to our new home construction program, Habitat completed 20 emergency plumbing repair projects similar to working with Grassroots that Mike mentioned after the winter storm last year. And we are currently completing about 60 wheelchair ramps per year through our partnership with the Texas Ramp Project. The biggest challenges that we face, that Habitat is facing right now, is the rising cost of construction materials and the lack of affordable land to build on. Waco Habitat is well positioned to assist the city of Waco with its 3 primary housing goals as laid out in the strategic housing plan. Habitat assists in meeting the supply goal by building new, energy-efficient, affordable homes and selling them at cost through a zero-interest loan. Habitat builds homes in Waco's core neighborhoods where there is a great need for affordable housing. And because Habitat makes homeownership possible for low and very low-income households, it assists meeting the housing plan's stability goal. The core neighborhoods, which have the lowest household incomes, are experiencing gentrification, and the people in those neighborhoods are struggling to afford housing. Habitat provides affordable housing for these residents, and by increasing the number of homeowners, Habitat helps stabilize the core neighborhood. Finally, Habitat assists in meeting the housing plan's subsidy goal by leveraging privately donated funds with city and state funds, along with thousands of hours of volunteer labor to make its homes affordable for those most in need of safe, energy-efficient housing. The proven model of selling homes at cost through a zero-interest mortgage allows Habitat homeowners to build wealth in a way that would not be possible without the Habitat program. Waco Habitat is proud of its legacy and long-lasting relationship with the city of Waco and look forward to building on that in the future as we build more stable, healthy communities through home ownership. Thank you.
Any questions for John?
No, I don't have any questions. I appreciate the effort and intentionality that is being addressed in District 1 with the neighborhood development on Payne. I think it's imperative that, you know, in our core especially, that we rebuild where we can, repair where we can't, and creating an opportunity, because I just think about, especially neighborhoods that abut schools, you know, what the next generation looks like. Because if you go back to the people who were raised in those neighborhoods and they talk about, you know, well, I walked to, you know, whatever, you know, and I remember the couple that happened, the couple of bills that were straight away that were directly across from Hines and on down those streets. And I'm just thinking about the next generation that will come through that school and the next generation of Wacoans that will build. And so we appreciate the efforts that Habitat have made in advancing those neighborhoods and all of the Chotos, but, you know, especially in one area, in one neighborhood. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
One thing, John, before I let you get away, let's not forget, we talked in run-through about this, let's not forget we want to get the city volunteers back and do a work day.
We'll do that in 2023.
All right, sounds good. And I'm sure some of the council will want to join us.
For sure.
We'll deliver
I
popsicles.
tried to, they wouldn't give me a hard hat the last time. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
And next up, we'll hear from Roy Nash with NeighborWorks.
Thank you, Galen. NeighborWorks Waco, we've been in business now. This is our 30th year of Waco. And we were actually started by a vision from Waco City Council members back in the late 1980s. And we got our start, though, officially in 1993. So our 30th year now of Waco. Okay, which way to go? That way? Okay. So, wanted to give you a quick vision of what we've actually accomplished in the core of Waco. and through our 29 years. The green dots are loans we've made, and some of these dots are on top of each other, so they might not see all of them. The yellow dots are homes we've rehabbed in the Waco area, and the blue are new homes. So we've counseled now 6,000 clients have received our financial counseling and education. 3,176 of those have become first-time home buyers, or 52.9% that have gone through our education later become first-time home buyers. We've actually constructed 207 new single-family homes in the Waco area. 130 homes have been rehabbed by NeighborWorks in this area. We've also added each year $540,000 in property tax revenue annually that have been generated by these 207 newly built single-family homes. So that's been added to the property tax rolls total for that year. This consequently gives our folks who have gone through our program, and this is a pretty good number here, $320 million in equity that our clients have generated through either appreciation of their properties and or payment of their mortgages. In other words, a combination of all the above. We've calculated just over, they've averaged over $100,000 of increased equity in their home. So this is the wealth generation that home ownership brings, and we feel that every citizen should have the opportunity to be a homeowner in Waco. So our Chodo program, we've completed 62 homes in Waco in the Chodo program. We've received $2.3 million in Chodo contracts to date. And this is one of our homeowners on North 5th Street. Some of y'all probably have driven by, might know this young lady. She's exciting. Our Legacy Square subdivision is one of our latest projects over in East Waco, and over half of those residents, 7 out of 12 of those new homes are in the Chodo program. And Legacy Square, you can see that we've tried to fit the neighborhood nicely with our wainscot approach to these homes. And the inside, however, are nothing like those older homes. These kitchens are just a little bit more modern, probably, than the kitchens as of old. So here's another shot of our Legacy Square. We were the high bidder to buy this property from the city of Waco, and the city had actually torn down this old school, R.L. Smith, as you see there on the left. It got in really bad condition. And so on the right, you can see one of our new homes in that Legacy Square subdivision. Our latest project has been our Belmont Village project. This is located about a block behind the H-E-B on Valley Mills Drive near the interstate. So we took 9 acres of land and brought in a few partners to help us build 27 duplexes, 54 units of rental property there at that site. One of the things we also accomplished here was we put in an 18-inch sewer line that helped relieve some of the issues of the breaking clay pipes in those neighborhoods around this subdivision. So we did that in partnership with the city of Waco, and that's worked out very nicely. Our very first subdivision, East Waco again, Pecan Valley Estates, we built 17 homes in that subdivision we started back around the year 2000. One of our subdivision that I think is one of our coolest is over in South Waco, South 4th and Gurley, adjacent to the Oakwood Cemetery. We built a PUD, a Planned Unit Development Project, and these are the first 3 homes we built, plus we built the gazebo, and now 44 homes exist on that property. there at South 4th and Gurley Avenues. Beautiful project. One of our projects we have on the drawing board, and we've just gone before the Waco Development Group with the city, and this is a fiveplex we plan to build at North 19th and Mitchell. The 5th unit is down there on the right side facing Mitchell Avenue, but this is a project we hope to replicate in neighborhoods around the city of Waco where zoning is permitted for this kind of project. Wanted to show you what market conditions look like, getting a really strong feel. That white line at the bottom shows an annual increase in our income levels for Waco, what the median income looks like. And so it's gone up, that white line has gone up 77% since 2003 through about 2020. Well, the blue line is the cost of construction. And you can see why we're all going through such turmoil right now, is trying to make homes fit. And it's sort of hard when the cost of the home has gone up 226%. So we started, if you start there, back around $70,000 back in '03, and now we're up to about $230,000 for cost of construction for a Chodo home. So that's our challenge right there, a good visual that'll show that. So our plans for the future, we're a strong believer that the shared equity program needs to be a strong part of that process. We're going through a training right now with our sister organization up in Burlington, Vermont, and they've been doing shared equity for over 40 years in that city just because of the cost of housing has gone so high. They no longer build single-family homes. It's all now condominiums in that program just because of the affordability issues. But another thing we think we're needing is going to be smaller lots, smaller homes, and also accessory dwelling units need to be approved in the city, we feel like, with certain restrictions, of course. Help required from the city, certainly more affordable building lots. Time to build must be expedited so that we don't experience the vast increase in building costs. And then increased subsidies for low and moderate income families. One of the projects we did this summer, we had some kids coming in from all across the country through Shepherd's Heart. And so we had a partnership with that nonprofit organization, and these kids, you got it there, 8,000 pounds of debris collected, 5 loads hauled to the landfill in Waco, and you can see on the picture on the right, that's our truck and trailer hauling that debris to the Waco landfill. So that's it for Waco. These 4 ladies all were Chodo clients of ours. We tend to specialize in single females. We love them. And you can tell they love their new home and are all enjoying their homes as we move forward. So council, thank you for this opportunity to share with you, and we look forward to working with y'all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Any questions for Roy? Thank you so much. To each of you, John, Mike, Roy, thank you all so much for what you do in your organizations. Please thank your staffs as well. As has been mentioned by each of you, there's unprecedented demand for housing and unprecedented challenges for affordable housing. And as this council is very dedicated and committed to taking that concern very seriously. And we wouldn't be able to do it without you and your teams. I'm very convinced that we've got some really cool things that we're going to be rolling out here in partnership with you to make sure that Waco's housing stock, affordable housing stock, is abundant, and that we are building financial security through housing in our community. So thank you. Homeownership is so critical, and we're strong in partnership on that. So to each of your team members that are here or not here, thank you so much for all that you do. Appreciate you guys being here.
All right, next up, we'll have our second work session, which I think is going to light up the whole room.
Get out of here.
Lightning.
It's a good
Tag
one.
on the bad jokes.
Yeah, I know. Now, Amy Barlarley Highland, our Director of Public Works, is going to discuss both the new lighting being installed with the interstate project at several different underpasses, or overpasses, I should say, as well as talk to us about the process and the agenda item that's on the agenda today to replace the Lake Brazos lights on the service roads. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think we're looking for some council feedback on which direction you'd like us to go. So, Amy, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Bradley. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pleased to talk to you this afternoon about the decorative lighting along Interstate 35 and the projects that are ongoing and planned for the future. I'm not going anywhere. Clicking, arrowing. Oh, okay, sorry. I guess I am now. Okay, so you may recall in June, by City Resolution 2022-386, we did form an agreement with TxDOT to maintain the decorative lighting along Interstate 35. The ones that are being constructed right now under the Interstate 35 project, including MLK, U Parks, 4th, 5th, 11th, and 12th. And we also, in that agreement, agreed we would maintain the lighting on the cable stayed bridges over the Brazos River. So, I'm not sure. We just jumped way ahead here.
There we go.
Thank you. I'm experiencing technical difficulties. The I-35 decorative lighting project goes back to January of 2017, which was actually a year and a half before I came to work for the city of Waco. There were a series of meetings that started in January and continued on that culminated in a very strong desire on the people living and residing in the community and walking back and forth, that they wanted a much more inviting area underneath the interstate when they were walking underneath the interstate. Next slide, please. So these are the locations for the current aesthetic lighting project. This was a TIF application, and TIF actually did fund ultimately $2.105 million for the decorative lighting at these 4 locations. Next slide, please. So one of the things, or many of the things that were learned in the presentations and the meetings that were had, were that people really wanted to make the area more inviting. They felt like there was a mental barrier and that the community was disconnected between the Baylor side and the Waco side, and they wanted something that more showcased downtown Waco. They said our existing underpasses were ugly and forbidding and unfriendly.
Forbidding.
Words that were used in those focus meetings. Next slide, please.
Forbidding. I respect whoever said the word forbidding.
Yeah, well.
Very specific.
So the projects looked at doing column lighting on the columns of the underpasses, individually lighting those columns, and having downward facing lighting, and having control boxes so that you could control the colors of the downlighting on the columns underneath, and you could also program the colors for different types of events and to commemorate things like 4th of July. And that we were looking for it to be possible to coordinate the lighting with the lighting on the Brazos River frontage road bridges as well. So here's some conceptual ideas about what that lighting will look like at night underneath the underpasses at Martin Luther King, U Parks, 4th, 5th, 11th, 12th. Next slide, please. So at 4th and 5th Street, there is a project to install globe lighting. These pictures are actually the lights that are in San Antonio, but we have similar globes sitting over in the traffic shop right now, and Creative Waco is helping us with a call for artists to determine what kind of cladding we should put on the outside of those light fixtures that will reflect the Waco community in some way, and our history looking backwards and our future looking forwards. So it will not be these same ones that you're seeing in this picture, these are actually bicycle gears. And the next slide will show you what it looks like there. Some of you may have been there. It's a really cool effect, but ours will be similar but different. Next slide, please.
Amy, quick question on, you mentioned the MLK underpass, University Parks underpass, 4th, 5th underpass, 11th, 12th underpass. With the redesign of the Riverwalk, at least on one side there, and then you've got the other side that's kind of near, adjacent to McLean Stadium, will there be lighting under that portion as well, under this proposal?
Yeah, I think we're going to be talking and coordinating that as we move forward to make sure that what we have is going to be in concert with what we're envisioning in the future there.
Okay, because I imagine that once completed, we'll get a fair amount of pedestrian traffic
Absolutely.
at night as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the lighting on the bridge now was installed in 2015. There was only a 5-year warranty on those fixtures. It was TxDOT maintained up until this resolution that we passed in June. And yeah, as you all know, about 50% of that lighting is currently not working, and parts of it we've had to turn off to steal parts to fix other sections of it. Here's some pictures that just show you kind of where we're at. Those high-powered fixtures tend to get hot and they overheat, and a lot of that lighting is facing upward, so it's getting moisture in there and things are shorting out, and it's really at the end of its useful service life. Additionally, the manufacturer doesn't manufacture replacement parts anymore, so in order to replace a part, we have to rewire and sort of MacGyver together something that isn't necessarily made to be MacGyvered together.
Is that a technical term?
Yes, it is. It's an engineering term. Next slide, please. We're thinking about as an alternative to do LED direct view lighting nodes, and here's a picture of what they look like. They are color kinetic, so they can be programmed. They can do all manner of really fancy things. Next slide.
And is that a lid or a dome to protect it from
They-
said elements?
They do, and they're very easy to replace. It's not like your Christmas lights where if one goes out, they all go out. This is a much better system. You know, technology has changed an awful lot in the last 7 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So here's a few of the advantages. They'll be easier to maintain and easier for us to replace, among other things, and weatherproof is right there in the middle. Next slide, please. So here's some pictures of some bridges that are lighted with similar systems. Also underneath there is the price tag for some of those. So there's an awful lot of option and pricing points and levels. And do you want to light the downside? Do you want to face up? Do you want to light the cables? Do you want to light the columns? There's an awful lot of options that we're going to need to sort our way through to decide as a city how we want to go forward and what we want those iconic structures to look like. Next slide, please. Just picking the most expensive, the Hone Bridge. Here's some pictures of the different things that they can do with the bridge. And the man behind the column is going to pull up the next slide, which actually has a little clip, video clip, that will show you of the Hone Bridge actually doing its thing at night. This particular bridge can be coordinated to music and can do all kinds of fancy things, but as I said, that's the expensive option. Next slide. So we are anticipating moving forward and asking for a $750,000 grant from TERS number 1 to move forward with a design build project to do the lighting upgrade on the bridge. And we're proposing design build as a 2-step process because we're smart enough to know that we don't know enough about lighting to do this ourselves. So we want to solicit for teams of qualified people who have done decorative lighting on outside structures and bridges and in wet environments that can help guide us and give us some proposals about what's possible and what it'll cost so we can make a good determination. So first step would be a request for qualifications, And then we would go through those and identify the most qualified, and then we would turn around and do a request for proposal from a number of qualified teams that propose. One of the requirements in design build is that the city will have a technical advisor who has expertise and will help us, guide us through this process. There are a lot of things that we need to consider. As I mentioned before, the extent of the lighting, what type of lighting, the lifespan of the lighting system, how easy it'll be to maintain, where are people going to be viewing it from. So we don't want people on the interstate to be distracted by the lights, but we do want people from the Riverwalk to see it and enjoy it. So there's an awful lot of considerations, including what our budget will be and what the different pricing points are. And then following on after that, we will probably want to let a maintenance contract to maintain all of the decorative lighting under Interstate 35 and get, qualified professional in here to do that work. Next slide, please. So the timeline is to ask you to let us move forward with the design build request for qualifications. Purchasing is working with us on putting that together. We'd like to get that out first quarter of this year and give teams time to put together their qualifications prior to the holidays coming up on everyone. And then the mid-second quarter, go for requests for proposals from the qualified groups of people and selecting the successful team at the end of the second quarter of this fiscal year. And part of the determination will be what kind of a construction schedule they provide to us will be one of those determining factors as well, with who we pick along with budget and all of those other ideas, because it is going to be a best value scenario and not necessarily a low bid. Next slide. And that's it.
Amy, thank you so much. This is exciting. And wanted to follow up. You kind of had broken it into two, that the underpasses will be completed under TxDOT's interstate expansion, which is slated to be complete sometime at the end of this calendar year or
Correct.
early next calendar year. And so will the funding for that underpass lighting be handled out of that?
That was already paid, yeah.
Okay, so that's already paid
That was
for.
a TIF, that 2.105 million, I think it was 98 was paid to TxDOT for that, for all that decorative lighting. So that's all been paid for. We're just going to need to maintain it after. It'll have a warranty period, but after,
Okay.
it'll be the city's responsibility after that.
And that's, right now, the only kind of input there is there's some kind of creative Waco input on what that will look like. And then the other component that you've presented to us is lighting the bridge up, and you don't have a sense of what the high end, the middle, or the low end is looking like without essentially getting proposals from experts who we go with, who then will present those options to us.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay.
And some of those bridges that I showed you the pictures of, they actually did fundraising to fund parts of it, and they did some of their lighting in stages as they had funding. They'd do one section of the bridge, and then they'd do fundraising, and they'd get another section of the bridge done.
They who? The cities or or individual
I
organizations
think
like the arts
citizens,
organizations?
the Milwaukee one, I think, had people contributing. Private citizens would buy a bulb, I think, looking at that.
My wife is from Corpus, and so we've driven with our children to the Harbor Bridge before to just watch the lights change, and it's pretty impressive. And on the other hand, I would say the way that our current bridge functions is pretty impressive as it is, the way it lights up. So I don't know. I know some of this has TIF and TERS implications I don't want to go into, but I'm definitely in favor of at least maintaining what we've got, if nothing else, because I like the functionality of the color schemes and the kind of seasonal, or as things come up, reflecting the city's expression of solidarity or what it may be.
It's a forward-facing way for us to be responsive to global issues, and as well as ones that are local.
Yeah.
And supportive of teams and that kind of business. We started it, we've got to finish it. And I think we need to get it in a way that will not be as difficult to maintain in the future, because it's not like you can undo a bridge. And so now that it's lit, it must remain lit. So let's find a way that, will allow us a little I mean, because technology will change every day, but, I think that if we find a way to do something that is easily maintained or adjusted, should it become obsolete post the 5-year warranty, that we're not stuck holding a bag, you know what I mean? But again, I think the way we can respond as a city with the bridge lighting is beautiful. I'm excited about the opportunities for the underpass lighting, just as an expression of creativity and who we are as Wacoans. I think that it is, so some of the words that were used in the studies and group gatherings before are words that are used throughout cities throughout the country about what pedestrian areas, especially over in underpasses, look like. I was recently in Nashville, and they've taken an underpass and made it a whole art exhibit under there, and it has lighting and it has art, and I think that's important because it makes space welcoming. Because we do have people who are pedestrians, and we do have people that that's the way that they choose to be mobile. And why should their experience not be everything that it is this city? So I'm excited about what that looks like. I'm excited about the direction that we have. I understand that it was impossible for you to bring in the example of
Well, they're about 4 feet tall,
You
so
know.
the cages are like this big. They're not insignificant, and when they're done, they'll
Listen,
weigh about
could've got 'em in
600
here.
pounds.
Could've got 'em out.
Listen, I think it could have been done.
Yeah.
The only other thing I will say, since we're on super corny jokes, if you're gonna talk about this, you should have reached back to Debbie Boone and had them play "You Light Up My Life" as you approach the
Amy, this is fantastic. I think a lot of us got the chance to travel this summer and being in different cities, and I think what sets a community apart are the details and the sense of both beauty and safety perceived and real. And so absolutely echo what Councilmember Beerfield said about the underlighting. I would love to see us maybe do some placemaking or wayfinding underneath there and having signage pointing towards whether that's like local restaurants or amenities going on both sides of town. I think the connectivity for long-term residents and our short-term residents that are Baylor students flooding into downtown and vice versa is exciting. I want us to do this well. I couldn't help but laughing just hearing all of the challenges we're having with the technology historically, and I want there to be it sounds like there's so much intentionality with the sustainability of how do we be responsive to events quickly, and how does that not kill our staff as we're wanting to light things up? So ways that we can build technology that is user-friendly and that accounts for all of the elements of being in Texas and near bodies of water, I think are helpful. I also feel comfortable investing more money in this. I think we're putting so much money into the riverfront and connecting South Waco into downtown. And so if we need to invest some real money to make these details pop and be beautiful and be feasible for several years to come, that's an expense that I think is well worth it in my book.
Just a couple of comments. So more of this has to do with the funding. The 4 underpasses, 2.1 million, that's already paid for, including the Creative Waco part of the 4th and 5th bulb thing. And I do agree with my fellow council members about, we want to make this safe and inviting, and if there needs to be a phase 2, let's see how all this works. I'm excited to see it all. But there needs to be another phase of making these even better and more inviting. We should kind of keep open minds there too. On the bridge stuff, very enlightening. When I saw this, Amy, on page 185, of why it wasn't working, it was so illuminating to me. Sorry, God, I didn't mean me to say that one. But it was illuminating that The reason we drive by there and they're not working is that these have just functional failures and outdated and obsolete. And, but when that thing was working, that was cool. I mean, the first 6 months or 12 months when everything was kind of working right, and I don't know if that technology still exists, because what I see in this, the examples that we kind of put up there, those are nice too. I don't see, it seems like we're identifying direct view lighting
Well,
versus
that's one
flood.
option that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, you know, those design teams will bring us forward multiple options.
Which shows, you can do cool stuff, you can make things move, but those are like bulbs, kind of, that you can magnetically stick on to things and make movement. But it doesn't seem to me like you get that flood of what made the existing one so unique and so beautiful. But as we go to RFQ and RFP, I hope we're open to, I'd like to see the recreation of what that thing was supposed to be, or what it was for a year, before it started kind of breaking down. I guess the other question I had, the 750, is that just meant to get us through the, is that all-in cost, or are we talking about, that's just meant for the engineering, the RFP stuff? We're gonna have a big number when this thing comes out at the end, aren't we?
The number really could be,
Whatever we want it to be.
yeah.
What, do we know what the first time around this thing cost? I know it's not working now, so I don't want to say it wasn't.
I think it was in the $600,000
Really?
range, something like that.
Do we know if the flood lighting type technology in you know, a kind of a 2.0 is out there? I guess we'll find out. That's why we're doing this, right?
Right.
Okay.
And we certainly could say one of the options is we want you to recreate what the initial vision was and give us a price to give us that back.
Great.
But I
I
also-
totally support it, because I think for a while that was such a neat thing to brag about, and we would look at it from downtown and the changing colors and just every good thing about it. And then when it kind of started faltering, it's like you remember the times when it worked well, and wow, can't we do that? But and again, as other council members have said, as we get this Riverwalk sort of looking the way we wanted it to for the last 150 years, let's hopefully coincide it with this thing. So I appreciate you taking this on and getting us to where we want to be with this. with
Now I
this
need to
lighting.
find a grant for this.
Exactly.
Take
Thanks.
it to the top.
I mean, when the bridge was lit up when Prince died, I was like, okay, okay, I can just keep living here.
It's really beautiful. I think that seeing the future of this corridor is really exciting, and knowing that there's not only going to be the bridge lights restored, but the connectivity that's going to be able to come from the beautiful lighting on the underpasses is just really thrilling. And I think that as we see the continued development in this part of the city, this is just going to be another amazing touch that both our residents and visitors are going to get to really experience and treasure. So thanks for your works to Amy and staff.
All right, last up, Clint Peters, Director of Development Services. Clint Peters in the house. He only has 2 public hearings today, I think. So Clint, you've got an hour and 23 minutes to burn. Good luck with that. But why don't you walk us through the 2 public hearings you have?
So we do have 2 public hearings.
Wait. Since we do have some time, we do need to highlight something, and that is, while we're celebrating people today, it is Mr. Clint Peters' birthday. Celebrate that. Clint, thanks for all you do for us. I hope you're having a good birthday so far, with only 2 public hearings.
I can't think of any better birthday wish than being at a city council meeting.
Cake by your side. What kind of cake? Is that, are you not going to show us?
No, because I
It
don't
may
want you
be.
to have any.
I thought it might be empty, but no.
Silo.
Open it up. Let's see what.
See what kind we got.
Yeah,
So while he opens it up, I'll tell you all the story.
Uh-oh.
Today at about 1:30, I walked into Ryan and Lisa's office areas and I said, I need a favor. I need someone to go get me a cupcake. And so they had to play rock, paper, scissors to decide who was going to get the cupcake, and Ryan lost. Courtesy of Ryan Holt, Clint.
That's why it's in a black box.
What flavor did he get you?
Looks like a chocolate. Chocolate. Vanilla.
The old school, he
That
says.
feels right.
Well, don't eat it during your presentation,
No,
but
actually, please eat it during your presentation.
enjoy, you've earned it.
Well, thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Thanks, Clint. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Clint.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So we do just have the two public hearings, and they're exciting ones too, so that's good. The first one is a historic landmark designation at 200 Castle Avenue. We don't see these very often. It is a preservation tool in our zoning ordinance that does help protect some of our historic structures in Waco. So the current owners of the property, Dr. and Mrs. Henry Boehm III, submitted an application for designation of a house located in Castle Heights at 200 Castle Avenue that was built in the 1920s by the Nash family. Actually, I think it was Roy Nash's great-grandparents that actually built that house. They had a part of the Nash Robinson lumber yard that's operated in downtown for a long time. They're still, the existing lumber yard building is on Franklin that we hope to get restored as well. So they have a big connection to Waco history. Here's the home. It is a Tudor Revival architectural style built in the 1920s. It is a contributing structure in our National Register Historic District, Castle Heights Historic District, and a Priority 1 structure in our survey, historic preservation survey. And then here's some more pictures of it. And then you can see the findings. It was recommended by both our Plan Commission and Historic Landmark Commission for approval. And then our second public hearing is the second and final part of the zoning approval for the Catalyst Riverfront development. This is the final PUD plan approval for the property that's being currently developed for phase 1, and then the additional part that was added as part of the pavilion project on the north side of Clay. You can see the zoning all there. The concept plan was approved by council in August, and then this is the final PUD plan. Mainly the differences you'll see here through the final PUD plan is they add more details, design details and building massing. There was discussion with council at the concept plan about trying to blend in some of the traditional downtown architectural styles with this more modern development, and so that's what they tried to accomplish with some of their plans. So here's kind of an elevation, and you can see they took some of the storefront details along, historical storefront details along Austin Avenue to try to have the same type of massing. So you have that storefront articulation of the buildings horizontally and both vertically to match kind of that look of downtown Waco and Austin Avenue. And then here's the facades as you go from the north and south elevations. And you can see building materials are mainly masonry finishes with brick. And then they do have some more modern metal type elements as well. So this is the rendering looking from U Parks in Clay at the corner there where you have the storefronts, and then down Clay where it turns in more to the multifamily residential. This is looking towards the entrance to the parking garage from University Parks. And then the facades, this is the facade that you see from Clay, where you have the corner of University Parks this way working back towards River Street. And then this is the west elevation, which is internal to the project that you'll only see from the back of the buildings of Phase 1, so that you won't be able to see this from public view on this west elevation. And so that's the parking garage and then the back of the apartment buildings. And then this is looking back from the clay side where you have the entry into the parking garage and the apartments. And then further down, and there's the renderings for that, and then the parking garage entry from River Street, which is on the back side of the development. And the renderings for that. And then you get to the more modern restaurant buildings where you have all four sides. Basically, it's front, so there's really not a rear to these buildings, and they are a lot more modern in style to blend in with the pavilion. And those are the renderings for that. And then just some pictures that show that. This is looking down Clay, so you have the pavilion site over here, Phase 2 of the Catalyst development, and then you can see Phase 1 that's under construction further down U Parks. And Plan Commission did recommend approval of the final PUD plan. We do have a couple of conditions dealing with final construction details when they come in for permitting. That's it. Go eat my cupcake now.
Questions? Thank you, Clint.
Thanks,
Happy
Clint.
birthday.
Happy birthday, Clint.
All right, are there any requests for future agenda items? We will now recess the work session and reconvene regular session. Well, we don't have an executive session today, do we? Okay, great. Then we will just recess the work session and reconvene regular session at 4:44 p.m.